You know, being Canadian, you have a fascination with wrestlers of all generations. In Canada, from the Ledukes to the Vachons, the Chaigarjeet Singh, the Stu Hart, to all the extended current and the past champions, including Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Jericho, all different generations. But this guy stands out because not only one of the most rugged wrestlers of his era, one of the most acrobatic, the most handsome, the most talented. Of course, we have to be talking about the legend of the Canadian wrestling of the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, the great Edouard Carpentier. Now, Edouard Carpentier has a very interesting background. He was a French-born Canadian professional wrestler who was born Edouard Ignace Wyker-Skorshevich. Over the course of his career, he held multiple World Heavyweight titles, including the NWA World Heavyweight Championship and the WWA World Heavyweight title. Now nicknamed the Flying Frenchman, Carpentier was known for his athletic maneuvers, including backflips, cartwheels, and somersaults. Now at 5'10 and a solid 230, a bodybuilder physique. He was born in 1926 in Rouen, France, to a Russian father and a Polish mother. He eventually became a freedom fighter and joined the French resistance during World War II under the German occupation, and was awarded the Croix de Guerre and the Croix de Combattant medals by the French government at the close of the war. When he moved to Montreal in 1956, he eventually became a Canadian citizen. He also became an all-around athlete with tremendous gymnastic skills. Now, outside of his career, he wrestled in Europe as Eddie Wachowski. Carpentier was a crowd favorite from the start, one of the first wrestlers to delight fans with acrobatic leaps from the turnbuckles and a variety of other aerial maneuvers such as the rope-aided twisting head scissors, kind of a lucha libre with a little bit Quebecois and Acadian spin to it. He was always a fan favorite in these bouts and was matched against numerous villains, perhaps the most well-known of whom was the legendary and fellow Canadian Killer Kowalski. Now, the high point of his career was his NWA World Heavyweight title reign from 56 to 57, as he won the title in a disputed contest against Lou Thesz on June 14, 1957. Some NWA territories and officials recognized the disputed win as a legitimate title change, while others did not. In the Canadian media, we do recognize it. This led to a split of the NWA and led to the creation of other organizations, all with their own world titles. Now, he was later recognized as the first holder of the Omaha version of the World Heavyweight Championship. He eventually dropped the belt to Vern Gagne. Now, the Omaha title was unified with the AWA World Heavyweight Championship in 1963, so technically he was also an AWA champion once removed. Now, Carpentier headlined Madison Square Garden 3 times in 62 with tag team partner Bobo Brazil. They had 2 main events against Buddy Rogers and Handsome Johnny Barrent, another against Rogers and Killer Kowalski. He teamed numerous times with Antonio Rocca as well as Vittorio Paulo. In solo matches at the Garden, he defeated Giant Baba, Skull Murphy, the Magnificent Maurice, and Hans Motier. Now, after his retirement, Carpentier operated a school for teaching professional wrestling skills. He also operated in the early 1980s as a babyface color commentator alongside heel play-by-play host Guy Horai for the Montreal-based International Wrestling or Lutte Nationale, and then together for the World Wrestling Federation when the WWF bought the territory of Montreal in 1985. They hosted a French edition of the WWF television show Superstars, sold to French-speaking countries. He was replaced by former Quebecois wrestler Raymond Rougeau in 1982. Now, Carpentier was also known for being the mentor for Andre the Giant in his early years. Of course, Andre was known as Le Géant Jean Ferret for many years before the Andre the Giant, description of Andre Roussimoff. was put together, and Carpentier has been recognized as the one really to celebrate Andre's skills for the international audience. Now, Carpentier should be in the WWE Hall of Fame. Hasn't come about, but in the history of Canadian wrestling, he's definitely a top 7 wrestler. Edouard Robert is up there, Chris Benoit, again, Owen Hart, extremely dedicated and absolutely cerebral and special guy. Now, unfortunately, on 30th of October 2010, he died of a heart attack. He's home in Montreal, age 94. Now, he had suffered a major heart attack in 2000, and Carpentier had been in poor health for many years, which was, of course, due to his acrobatic, high-flying style. But his matches, if you have a chance to see them on YouTube, they have to seem to be believed. Again, it was a precursor to Lucha Libre, but to him and Rocca, Rocca was just a tremendous talent who could slap an opponent in his face with his foot, of all things. Again, seem to be believed. Now, titles. Atlantic Commission, World Heavyweight title 1 time. AWA World title, Omaha version 1 time. International Wrestling Alliance World title, Chicago version 1 time. Lutte Nationale, Canadian International Heavyweight Championship 2 times. And this was the classic tag team, one of the best celebrity tag teams of all time. He won 1 Canadian International Tag Team Championship with Mad Dog Vachon. Good night for a walk. Now, the Montreal Athletic Commission, International Wrestling Alliance, he was a Montreal version champion 5 times. National Wrestling Alliance, he was World Heavyweight Champion once. Now, North American Wrestling Alliance, Worldwide Wrestling Associates, NWA Hollywood Wrestling, he was NWA America's Heavyweight title holder once. WWE World Heavyweight Championship winner twice. WWE World Tag Team Championship twice with Ernie Ladd and Bob Ellis, and WWE International Television Tag Team title winner with Salvador Sabo, Nick Bockwinkel, and Ernie Ladd. He made the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame Museum in 2010, Stampede Hall of Fame inductee in 1995, Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame class of 1997. Now, getting back to NWA victory, Carpentier was awarded the title by disqualification when Tez could not continue the match due to a back injury. Now, for 71 days, the NWA recognized the title as being a dispute between Carpentier and Tez. So, a very interesting career, and like I said, Edouard Carpentier never got the Order of Canada, never got much recognition outside of Quebec from a civic standpoint. But you look at how wrestling is so celebrated in Canada. He is the foundation, and the one of the greatest wrestlers in Quebec history. Only Edouard Robert and, of course, the Rougeaus could compare, and the Vachons compared to him for singles, and of course Leducs for tag team wrestling. But Carpentier, he gave up 4 or 5 inches in height, but I mean he was a bodybuilder shape, like Renny Dupree, my friend that has been the world and Japanese world WWE and Pro Wrestling Noah World Tag Team Champion. The body makes the wrestler, and the wrestler makes the body. Of the modern era, his body is the closest to Edouard. And, I've been following wrestling for 55 years, and there's a place in heaven, I think, specifically for Canadian wrestlers, because we have thrilled the world with people like Carpentier for decades and decades and decades and decades. We created television sports, we created pay-per-views, we created the the blood feuds, hardcore wrestling, Lucha Libre. Canadians have originated and the feud, or even the screw job. We created that as well. So, and Carpentier is a link to the old generation, the middle generation, and the new generation. Anyway, thanks for listening. Bye.